When rugby fans talk about the greatest rivalry the sport has ever produced, one contest rises above all others: the battle between the Springboks and the All Blacks. This is not just another international fixture on the rugby calendar. It is a rivalry that has shaped the history of the game for more than a century and continues to define what greatness looks like in world rugby. Every generation has witnessed its own unforgettable chapter in this remarkable story, and every time these two teams meet, the stakes feel bigger than the scoreboard. The reason is simple. Both nations have spent decades setting the standards that the rest of the rugby world tries to follow. While many rivalries are built on geography, politics, or regional pride, the contest between South Africa and New Zealand has always been built on excellence. It is a rivalry forged through elite performance, mutual respect, and a relentless pursuit of being the best team in the world. For many rugby supporters, one question has consistently determined who truly sits at the top of the sport. What happens when the Springboks face the All Blacks? That question has echoed through generations and remains just as relevant today as it was more than 100 years ago. The story began in 1921 when the All Blacks toured South Africa, creating a sporting relationship that would grow into one of the most respected and intense rivalries in international sport. From the very beginning, matches between the two nations carried enormous significance. Victories were celebrated not simply because points were earned, but because they provided evidence of superiority between rugby's two traditional powerhouses. Over the decades, both teams built reputations that extended far beyond their borders. The All Blacks became famous for their skill, innovation, speed, and ability to adapt under pressure. The Springboks, meanwhile, earned admiration for their physicality, resilience, tactical discipline, and ability to rise in the biggest moments. These contrasting styles created fascinating battles that captivated rugby audiences around the world. What made the rivalry even more compelling was the fact that neither side was willing to compromise its identity. Instead of becoming copies of one another, they continued to evolve while remaining true to their unique rugby philosophies. As a result, every meeting became a clash of ideas as much as a contest between players. Throughout the amateur era, New Zealand often held the upper hand and established itself as rugby's dominant force. Yet South Africa consistently challenged that dominance, producing teams capable of defeating anyone on their day. The rivalry generated legendary players whose names remain deeply connected to rugby history. Figures such as Frick du Preez, Colin Meads, and Sid Going became symbols of the fierce contests that defined the 1970s. Those matches were physical, competitive, and fiercely contested, helping build the mythology surrounding the rivalry. The story grew even larger in 1981 when the All Blacks tour became one of the most discussed sporting events of its era. The tour highlighted how rugby could intersect with broader social and political issues, demonstrating that the rivalry often carried significance beyond the field itself. Then came one of the most iconic moments in rugby history. In 1995, South Africa hosted the Rugby World Cup, and the tournament produced a final that transcended sport. Led by Francois Pienaar, inspired by the leadership of Nelson Mandela, and decided by the famous drop goal from Joel Stransky, the Springboks defeated the All Blacks in a match remembered around the world. The image of Mandela presenting the trophy became one of the defining moments not only in rugby history but in global sport. It showed how powerful the rivalry could be and how deeply its biggest moments could resonate beyond the game itself. Just 1 year later, Another historic chapter was written when New Zealand became the first team to win a Test series in South Africa. It was another reminder that neither side was prepared to accept second place for long. As rugby entered the professional era, the rivalry evolved again. Increased athleticism, improved preparation, and tactical innovation elevated the standard of competition even further. Every encounter seemed capable of producing a new classic. In 2009, the Springboks achieved something remarkable by defeating the All Blacks 3 times in a single season, a feat that reinforced South Africa's position among rugby's elite. Years later, supporters were treated to unforgettable contests featuring dramatic momentum swings and world-class performances. Between 2013 and 2018, the rivalry delivered several thrilling matches, including New Zealand's memorable comeback victory at Ellis Park and South Africa's famous triumph in Wellington. These games demonstrated why neutral fans often consider the fixture the most entertaining matchup in international rugby. The quality was consistently extraordinary because both teams demanded excellence from one another. When one side raised the standard, the other responded. When one nation introduced new tactical ideas, the other adapted and evolved. This constant cycle of innovation helped push rugby forward as a sport. In recent years, the rivalry has entered another fascinating phase, largely influenced by the impact of Rassie Erasmus. Since taking charge of the Springboks, Erasmus has helped South Africa achieve extraordinary success while developing a clear and effective identity. Under his leadership, the Springboks have become one of the most formidable teams in world rugby, winning major titles and consistently competing at the highest level. The rivalry with New Zealand has benefited from this resurgence because it has restored balance to the contest. While the All Blacks remain one of the sport's most respected teams, South Africa's rise has ensured that every meeting feels unpredictable and significant. Perhaps the greatest example came in 2023. Earlier that year, the Springboks recorded an impressive victory over the All Blacks at Twickenham, a result that generated enormous discussion across the rugby world. Yet the ultimate chapter of that season arrived in the Rugby World Cup final. In a tense and dramatic contest, South Africa edged New Zealand 12-11 to claim another world title. The narrow margin reflected everything that makes the rivalry special. Neither team was willing to give an inch. Every moment mattered. Every decision carried weight. And in the end, the difference between victory and defeat was incredibly small. That match joined a long list of unforgettable encounters that have defined the relationship between these two rugby giants. One of the most remarkable aspects of the rivalry is how closely matched the teams have remained over such a long period. Many famous sporting rivalries eventually become one-sided, with one team establishing a prolonged period of dominance. The Springboks and All Blacks have largely avoided that pattern. While New Zealand built a significant advantage in certain eras, South Africa repeatedly found ways to respond. The result is a rivalry that continues to feel competitive and meaningful no matter the decade. Fans tune in because they genuinely do not know what will happen next. That uncertainty is a key reason why the fixture remains so compelling. It is not simply about history. It is about the possibility of witnessing another memorable chapter. Looking ahead to 2026, excitement is growing once again. The upcoming Greatest Rugby Rivalry Series represents something many supporters have wanted to see for years. A dedicated 3-test contest between South Africa and New Zealand. For longtime rugby fans, it brings back memories of the great touring series that helped build the rivalry's reputation during earlier eras. For younger supporters, it offers an opportunity to experience the intensity of a traditional multi-match battle, between the sport's two most successful nations. The significance extends beyond rankings and trophies. A three-test series allows stories to develop over several weeks. Momentum can shift. Strategies can evolve. Individual players can emerge as heroes. Every match influences the next, creating a narrative that grows richer with each encounter. That is why anticipation is already building across the rugby world. The series is expected to showcase some of the best talent in the game, while adding another important chapter to a rivalry that has already produced countless unforgettable moments. Ultimately, the reason the Springboks versus the All Blacks is called rugby's greatest rivalry is not because of marketing slogans or dramatic headlines. It is because the title has been earned through more than a century of elite competition, iconic players, historic matches, and shared excellence. Together, these two nations have won multiple World Cups, spent years at the top of the global rankings, and consistently pushed each other to new heights. Their rivalry has survived changing eras, evolving tactics, and shifting generations while remaining as relevant as ever. Every time the Springboks and the All Blacks step onto the field together, they carry the weight of history and the expectations of millions of fans. And as the next chapter approaches, one thing remains certain. Rugby's greatest rivalry is far from finished. When rugby fans talk